Welcome to Unit 6. We'll be exploring three critical themes from Brown, Brockner, and Gino. I'm going to take the opportunity to share some ideas and perspectives to add texture to our conversation, including and beyond the literature reviewed. Take your time, dig in, engage, be reflective, and determine how these concepts relate to your personal and professional objectives. Take the opportunity to build community, to learn from each other, and indeed to have some fun. Our agenda is as follows: to review the course objectives here in Unit 6, go over some key resources, look at some overarching concepts, and then review Unit 7. Unit 6 has three objectives: explain the importance of teamwork on the organization, examine why psychological safety is important, and examine how collaboration can work in terms of supporting team building. In terms of learning activities, we'll be reviewing the concept of braving, fair process, and ways to sustain collaborations. Let's explore the Braving Trust framework from Brown. Trust often feels like a vague concept, but in reality, it's made up of specific behaviors. Brene Brown and her team studied how trust is built and broke it down into seven clear behaviors captured in the acronym BRAVING. The first is boundaries, respecting what's okay and what's not. The next is reliability, doing what we say we'll do. The next is accountability, owning mistakes and making amends. The next is vault, protecting confidentiality. Integrity, choosing what's right over what's easy. Non-judgment, giving and receiving help without shame. Lastly, generosity, assuming the best of others. This framework gives us a way to build both relationships and teams. Let's break down some of these behaviors. Boundaries means I know where I end and you begin. I can say no when I need to, and I can respect you, and I respect when you do the same, really. Reliability is about doing what you say you'll do, not just once, but really consistently over time. Accountability relates to taking responsibility when we make mistakes and having the courage to apologize and make it right. Before we talked about the vault, it refers to keeping what's shared with you in confidence and equally not sharing stories that are not yours to tell, even if you weren't asked to keep them a secret. Integrity. It's about choosing courage over comfort, doing what's right even when it's hard, and living values, not just talking about them. I had a chaplain at Tuskegee that used to say a prayer: Lord, give me the strength to do the difficult right over the easy wrong. And I think that's what we're talking about in terms of integrity. The two final elements that complete the acronym are non-judgment. It invites us to ask for help and express how we feel without fear of criticism. It's really about creating a safe space where we can be vulnerable with one another. And of course, generosity, giving others the most generous interpretation of their words and actions instead of assuming the worst. When something feels off, we pause and wonder, what else could be going on? When we gossip or vent about others, it might feel like connection, but it's not real trust. That, in Brene Brown words, is counterfeit connection. So, what does this mean for our work and leadership? First, we can use Braving the framework as a conversation tool to strengthen relationships in and on our teams. Second, give clear, actionable feedback early. Don't wait until there's a crisis. Third, resist the temptation to gossip. Confidentiality is a critical part of trust. And finally, find integrity partners, trusted colleagues who can help you practice hard conversations and keep your actions aligned with your values. Trust is not a one-time achievement, it's a daily practice, built over time through small, courageous choices. Now we're going to shift gears. One of the most important and critical aspects of leadership and organizational success is fair process. We're going to explore some insights from Joel Brockner's influential article, Why It's So Hard to Be Fair. Fairness in leadership isn't just a moral obligation, it's a key driver of organizational performance, employee engagement, and innovation. When employees trust the process, even tough outcomes like layoffs or pay cuts become something that's manageable. So let's dive into some of the key themes that highlight why fairness is so powerful, yet so difficult to practice consistently in organizations. Let's review what fair process is. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I'd like the choir to sing good. It refers to how decisions are made, not just those decisions which are. Employees want to know that their voices were heard, that decisions were explained clearly, and that they were treated with respect, even if the outcome isn't in their favor. Brockner highlights striking examples. Companies that communicated poorly during layoffs suffered drops in morale and productivity despite generous severance packages. In contrast, those that handled the process fairly by explaining their reasons and answering employee questions maintained trust and avoided costly lawsuits. The lessons here are simple. Fairness in process costs little, but the lack of it can cost the company or organization dearly. You might ask, okay, Mike, if the business case is so clear, why don't leaders practice this on a going basis? The answer lies in emotional barriers. Leaders often avoid tough conversations because they feel guilty, anxious, or simply uncomfortable. Instead of facing these feelings, they retreat behind silence or defensiveness. Yet the benefits of overcoming this discomfort are huge. Fair process fosters creativity and innovation. Employees feel safe speaking up, contributing new ideas, and embrace change. One of the great examples is Progressive Insurance, which built customer trust simply by being transparent about their competitors' prices. In essence, fair process isn't about avoiding harm, it's about creating conditions for people and organizations to thrive. So, how can we put these ideas into practice? It starts with small, practical steps. One, explain your decisions. Involve employees in the process. Give people advance notice when change is coming. And perhaps most importantly, listen with empathy. Fair process needs to be modeled by senior leadership and supported through training and feedback. Fairness should be a part of your organization's culture, not just a reaction in a crisis. It is ultimately a way of being. Beyond the business benefits, there's a moral imperative. Treating people with dignity and respect is simply the right thing to do. Now we're going to shift gears to talk a little bit about how organizations can build stronger, lasting collaboration. Our discussion is based on the research by Francina Gino, published in the Harvard Business Review. Collaboration is one of those words we love to articulate and talk about, but struggle to make real. Most organizations promote collaboration as a theoretical frame, but in practice, they fall back on competition, silos, and miscommunication. So let's take a look at what it really is really required to make collaboration work, not just once, but over the long haul. There's 6 key behaviors that unlock the sustained collaboration, and we're going to review those. The first theme is really deceptively simple: listening. But most people don't really listen. Instead, we wait for our turn to speak or mentally craft an argument. True listening means letting go of your ego and focusing on understanding others. At Pixar, for example, managers encourage asking open ended questions and staying curious rather than rushing to solutions. Leaders can also promote self checks, reminding themselves and ourselves to pause and give others the floor. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is sit in silence and truly hear what's being said. Next is empathy. We often hear about this idea of empathy. Many times we jump to conclusions about a colleague's intentions, but empathy invites us to pause and ask, what might they be experiencing right now? Empathy transforms conflict into curiosity. Instead of defending our position, we try to understand the other's personal story. Leaders can be encouraged by asking uh, really thoughtful follow up questions or simply acknowledging another's emotional state. Over time, empathy builds trust and psychological safety, which are the foundations for collaboration. Next, it's about feedback. Most teams either avoid feedback or sugarcoat it to the point of uselessness, but feedback is essential for growth. At organizations like Pixar, people learn to give specific, timely, behavior focused feedback. They celebrate positives, adding a plus to someone's idea rather than tearing it down. The key is to normalize feedback as a shared responsibility, not something that only flows from the top. When teams discuss feedback openly, learning becomes part of the culture. The fourth behavior is knowing when to lead and when to follow. In great teams, leadership isn't about titles, it's about stepping up when your experience is needed and stepping back when it's someone else's turn. This flexibility requires self awareness and humility. Leaders must role model this behavior, showing that it's okay to not always be in charge. It's important to delegate effectively so that really the responsibilities and decisions are shared, not hoarded. Fifth, it's about how we communicate. Too often we speak in vague terms or corporate jargon. Effective collaboration requires clear, concrete communications. To say what you mean, define next steps, and to avoid assumptions. When teams communicate with clarity, they avoid misalignment, confusion, and projects move forward faster, more expeditiously, with fewer mistakes. Finally, sustained collaboration is built on win win thinking. You may have remembered this from Stephen Covey. When we approach a problem, it's easy to focus on what we want, but true collaborators look for solutions where everyone benefits. This mindset encourages creativity and mutual respect, whether it's dividing resources, managing timelines, or sharing recognition. Win win interactions help teams to find common ground and to achieve more together. So let's summarize. Sustained collaboration isn't an accident. It's built through everyday behaviors: listening deeply, showing empathy, giving honest feedback, sharing leadership, speaking clearly, and seeing or seeking mutual benefits. Leaders must go first, modeling these actions consistently and creating environments where teams feel safe and are motivated to do the same. If we can crack this code, we'll not only work better together, we'll build organizations where collaborations become a way of life. Looking ahead now, we're going to Unit 7. We're going to discuss three things: the progress you've been making on your literature brief, create some personalized leadership plans with goals and action steps, and finally, formulate feedback for your classmates as they continue to develop their plans. As usual, take care, exercise balance, and invest in your education.